Coming off a strong win and a chance to pull away with a division lead, the Redskins instead regressed under the big Monday night lights and fell to the Cowboys 19-16. This is the kind of loss that can send a season into a tailspin, so the pressure is on to stay aggressive through the upcoming slate of away games. The story here was familiar to us. Trouble running, trouble converting, trouble scoring until the final few minutes of the game, and Deshaun Jackson. First he taketh, then he giveth. Lots of strong opinions out there on how much of the blame should fall on his shoulders, so we're sure to get into that. Stick with us for the first Dallas Week game recap right here in the Hogsty.
It's the Hogsty.
Do it!
Okay, everyone, I want you all to know this is a safe place. We can all be open with each other, okay? I want you guys all to share. This is our first Redskins Anonymous meeting. My name is Sean.
Hi, Sean.
I just want to tell you about myself. I've been a lifelong Redskins addict, and it's really just derailed my life recently. I'd love to meet you guys and get your stories.
Hi, I'm Robbie.
Hi,
Hey,
Robbie.
Robbie.
Hi, Robbie.
I'm a born and raised Redskins addict, and
I feel you, man. No, be strong.
It hurts, man. It really hurts.
Be strong. You're better than this. We'll beat this together.
I'm Steve, and I'm a Redskins addict.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
I've been an addict for my entire life. I've traveled around the country for this team. I've spent countless Sundays for this team, and I can't just break the cycle of addiction.
We've all been there, man.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's all right.
It's okay.
Hi, my name is Alex, and I'm a Redskins addict.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
It's
Hi,
not
Alex.
your fault.
Thanks, guys. You know, what's sad is I didn't even have to pick the Redskins as my team. I'm the first person in my family to do so. I could have gone with the Giants or somebody else, but
Right.
now I'm
this
stuck
addiction
here,
is
and
a
I don't
bully.
know what to do.
I know how it is.
Hi, I'm Frank, and I'm a Redskins addict.
Hi,
Oh,
Frank.
hello, Frank.
I'm just here for the donuts and coffee, so I'll just shut up now.
Help yourself, buddy. So this is just, we hate to come at you with such low energy, but the fact of the matter is, this was pretty demoralizing, guys. I mean,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
joke around, but seriously, this was a sad loss, a tough one to take. I feel like we saw the same struggles we've been seeing all year. Reared their heads again. Everybody's got a strong opinion about the D-Jax thing. Let's definitely get to that. But I guess first, let's talk a little generally on offense. I mean, what did we see here that was good?
Hold on, guys. My
okay.
tablet's not working, so you guys have to turn off your tablets first to make it fair.
Right, of course.
Okay.
Gotcha.
that-
Right, 'cause
yeah,
that makes
there's a-
total sense.
Yeah, there's a power
Yeah.
snafu.
Yeah.
What
The Patriots weren't involved, by the way.
I wish you hadn't asked us to start with the good first, because I'm struggling to come
I
up
know.
with what the good is on offense. Quite honestly, To
Yeah.
be perfectly honest,
It's a fair observation.
I honestly thought the team was completely outcoached by the. They were out schemed by the Dallas defense. They didn't have an answer to the never-ending series of stunts. You know
My
that the
goodness,
Dallas
you're right.
D-line did. They just absolutely didn't have an answer. I thought the interior of our offensive line just got destroyed for a good bit of the game.
Yep.
Our running game was terrible. Kirk Cousins had an off game. I thought it wasn't that his completion percentage was low. He missed a whole bunch of reads, had some
Definitely.
bad passes.
Yeah.
Do you want good? Let me. Gosh, I don't know what the good really. Deshaun Jackson, had a nice play there at the end. That's good.
Yeah, maybe we should forget the good thing because that's a losing prospect. But I liked your first observation there about the offensive line stuff. I know Robbie has probably observations about that too, because you're right. It was that tackle like end stunt they
Yep.
pulled on us that even the commentators were calling out.
Yeah, you can. I was posting on Twitter today. There's clips. You can see it. The D-line is lined up in stunt formations. Like it's as an offensive lineman, you are taught this is O-line 101. Like I said, if the D tackles are both lined up in a wide three technique on the guard's outside shoulder, and the D ends are wide on the outside shoulder of the tackle, they are running a stunt.
Yeah,
Newsflash.
You know what's frustrating is that Robbie, who while being a talented collegiate lineman and a much better athlete than all the rest of us, Robbie's not an NFL player, and Robbie recognized that immediately, and yet somehow none of our offensive linemen and none of our coaches recognize that. And maybe the tablet thing, was a problem. Maybe the fact that they couldn't print the photos was a problem. I don't know, but you'd think at some point after a few series somebody would clue into what's happening. Because if dummy me, who doesn't know anything about the line, saw that, I just don't get how they didn't see it.
They got 2 sacks in the first drive doing the same thing.
Yep. And let's talk about that too, Robbie. If you could tell us more specifically, it looks like basically they're switching positions, and then on a sort of like a delayed blitz, one of them breaks to the quarterback late. That's sort of something like that, right?
Well, the very first play of the game, right off the bat, we get a sack. Basically what happens is we were running a play-action play. I think Laribus was a little too trigger-happy. He went shooting down his gap a little too fast, and Spencer Long was too slow. I mean, the gap that DeMarcus Lawrence looped around into was Spencer Long's gap. Long should have been there to pick it up, but Laribus should have been a little bit slower. I mean, I think he oversold the running action. And then the second sack on that drive was exactly what I was talking about. The D-line's way spread out. There's no one lined up over the center. Typical stunt formation. The protection set to Trent Williams' side. So Laribus, Long, and Trent are all sliding to the left. Sheriff and Moses are both on their own island. What happens is they do the stunt. Sheriff's guy spikes into Moses. Sheriff stays with him. This might be due to Moses not recognizing it, because in offensive line play, when you have that setup, you have the 2 guys man-to-man, and they run a stunt. The guy who has the looper is the guy that comes at you and then backtracks behind the guy that's spiking to him. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
The guy that runs backwards to loop around, basically what DeMarcus Lawrence did on that sack. That
usually the end, right?
Yes, the end, usually, yes. But when that happens, the guy who has that looper has to see that and say, switch, switch, switch. So Brandon Sheriff knows that he has to pass off Crawford and pick up Lawrence. But because Moses didn't see that switch happen or the stunt happen, Sheriff stays with his guy and is way too out of position to recover and pick up DeMarcus Lawrence looping around. So it was just bad execution by both guys. I mean,
which is what I was going to ask you, because I mean, at least that's maybe a little less indictment on Callahan, because you'd hate for him to be underperforming. Maybe it's more an execution thing. Those blocks should have been picked up. In other words, is what I'm saying.
I'd be shocked if Callahan's not coaching that. I mean, I think the players just aren't picking it up.
Well, what I noticed, I haven't noticed a lot of stunts, an overabundance of stunts being run on us this year by other defense. I'm sure it's happened. I mean, but I don't. I think it was the first time they
faced. It's been effective in the past.
Okay.
It's happened some, but yesterday was a lot.
They abused us with it yesterday.
It's like they just weren't.
Here's
ready
my
for
question.
No, they weren't.
Well, my question is, if you're saying you can kind of look for it, in the pre-snap.
Yeah.
Is that on Kirk or is that on Laribus?
It's on the line. That's not on Laribus or Kirk. That's on Sheriff and Moses.
Should they be calling that out to each other pre-snap?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's exactly how it should be done. Laribus, his call, especially at least in pass pro, his call is he makes the initial pass protection call. I assume that they were typically setting the protection to Greg Hardy's side. So you had Laribus, Long, and Trent all setting to Greg Hardy's side because he's their most dangerous pass rusher. Because of that, Sheriff and Moses should have seen right off the bat, boom, wow, I have, Crawford lined up right here on my outside shoulder at guard, and DeMarcus Lawrence is wide outside of Moses. Hey, Morgan, look at this. Watch the twist. They should have been an easy
talking
pickup
about it to each other.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I'd like to ask you another question, though, Robbie. Josh Laribus has been everybody's favorite punching bag and buffet joke. But really, what's the experts' take on how he's playing? I mean, not just yesterday, but generally speaking.
It's not all in him. It's just the overall collective, I think.
Yeah.
It's hard to really judge based on not knowing what was called or
Right.
or what exactly the play was. But looking at it, to me, it just doesn't look like they're all on the same page. At least last night. Well, last night, the Panthers game, the Patriots game. You can't take the Saints or the Giants game. Those were just good games. I think the offensive line in general, in this year, has been pretty much solid in pass pro, but
Much
run
improved.
blocking in general has just been absolutely poor, and it seems like just lack of execution, lack of communication, and guys just aren't doing it.
I know Callahan's a hero of the great unwashed out here, but
Yeah.
I mean that is an indictment of the coaching staff. If they can't get these five guys, sorry, Sean, if they can't get these five guys on the same page, I have to blame the coach. I really do.
Yeah. Well, who are you going to put in behind, other than Long or Laribus,
We have two backups playing.
You're going to put in Ari Kwanjo, who's slower and not ready yet, and then you don't have. I still understand why Brian De La Puente hasn't unseated Laribus yet. I mean, I think Laribus hasn't been terrible, but I don't think he's been solid enough to warrant staying on the field. But
it doesn't surprise me. He was an unsigned free agent on the street, and was he going to walk in and start for an NFL team?
Over Josh Laribus, I would have hoped so, but
maybe he's not as. Maybe there was a reason he was on the street.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's we must be learning that by now. Yeah, if he hasn't.
We absolutely need a left guard and a center in the offseason. I'm not sold on either of those guys.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's totally true. Now, let me ask you this: we got to talk about the running game. We got to talk about Djax. But let me ask you this as a final point about the line. If it's not working, if you're getting abused up there with lots of stunts, here's my question: I feel like what we didn't see last night or the other day that we usually do is a lot of bubble screens. We didn't see that in this game. I feel like that might have helped a little bit, get the ball out a little faster. We didn't see a whole lot of bootleg out. I mean, he just kind of got abused with these standard drop. I mean, that was my kind of observation
but
from
the bootleg only starts to work when the running game starts to work, though.
Well, trust me, I know, but it's one of the. I feel like we just get into this.
Robbie's saying no, though. What do you think, Robbie?
No, I agree. I agree that it is most effective when the running game is working, but. I mean, you can tell when a defense is keying on your run, too. Even if it's not working, they're keying on it.
Well, let me revise my statements so you can finish. What my point is that for this team, the bootleg works in conjunction with the run. I think other teams may be able to run it more effectively, but we don't have the personnel for that. And where it tends to work with us is when we get a run game rolling and then the defense starts to key on it. And then that's my point, Robbie. But go ahead.
I think also what's really hurt our running game in general is our lack of depth at tight end. I mean, especially last night it showed. I mean, there's a couple plays. You have the formation where you have Reed on the outside, and then you have Ty Nsekhe and Tom Compton outside next to him on the same side as Trent and Spencer Long. What threat is there to pass? You only have two targets on that field. There's 10 guys in the box there and only one outside target. Jordan Reed and that outside receiver. I can't see it on that play on film, but you have two guys basically that are threats to throw the ball to.
Because you've got seven offensive linemen and a quarterback and a running back,
The tendencies are against you. I mean, they're just going to load the box and stop the run there, or at least keep you to a minimum gain.
Well, again, I mean, it's a coaching problem. It's a scheme problem. Our play calling is very predictable in many ways. They telegraph their plays. It just comes back to if a bunch of dummies like us, Robbie not included, can see this. If I can look at a play and go, okay, and I just know what's coming, that's bad because I'm just a guy sitting on a couch. And I have to think that these opposing defenses see that too. And especially when they have, I guess you'd call that a heavy jumbo package, Robbie. When you're doing a tie, an ultra
extreme
heavy jumbo package,
and there's just no doubt what's going to happen there whatsoever.
Yeah, there's one thing I don't know if you guys remembered or even heard John Gruden point this out last night during the game, but there was a play where we ran I think it was a weak side toss into a blitz. It went nowhere, obviously, and John Gruden basically pointed out and said Kirk Cousins needs to change this play. He needs to see that they're blitzing that backside and change it to something else, and because running that play into that blitz on the weak side of the formation is not going to get you anywhere. So that was also a problem with the running game.
Well, Cousins has said that he's not comfortable changing out of plays at this point.
You got to get better than that. Then, if that's the case, if that's true, you have to improve.
I hate to say anything about Cousins because everybody thinks I hate him, and I truly don't hate him. I question his ability, and this is one of these things. The guy is a fourth-year quarterback, and you can't audible out of obvious things like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he has the freedom to. He just doesn't feel comfortable doing it or something.
Then you got to make that change quick, Kirk.
Yeah. That's what it kind of sounded like he was saying post-game. People were asking him about that.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I mean, Kirk, let's be honest, Cousins was like a deer in the headlights through, I don't know, the first 45 minutes at least of the game.
That looked like the old Kirk that we saw against the Giants a year ago.
Yeah. He didn't make the turnovers, but he was throwing into double coverage when guys were wide open.
He missed Jordan Reed on that wide open crossing pattern.
Yeah.
He missed Djax in the end zone at least once.
Yeah.
Oh, he missed Djax open several
early
times.
on, yeah.
It wasn't just once.
Exactly, and that's another thing that I wanted to point out about play calling. Just that every time that we tried a deep pass, for example, in this game, the first one was to Djax. It didn't connect, but he had a step on his guy. It was badly thrown by Kirk. We tried another deep one. I think it was the second half to Pierre Garçon.
Let's give him a little defense. He was under some serious pressure on that throw.
Sure, but I'm just saying every time we tried it, and there was another one to Pierre that was deep again. It didn't connect, but he had a step, and it was just kind of poorly thrown. And then finally we tried it again at the end, and it connected. It was a touchdown. I'm saying all three of those were close. I don't know why we don't see that more often. I really don't get it.
I think this is a perfect example of a game manager type of quarterback, and it's a perfect example of why I hate that term and why I think we need to, continue to try and find a franchise quarterback. A game manager, to me, is a quarterback that's not going to make great plays. He's going to take what's in front of him. He's probably going to be a West Coast offense, a short passing style, at least, style quarterback. And he's not going to be really capable of making extraordinary plays. And that's kind of what we have, I think, with Cousins. And the guy's in his fourth year. I question whether or not he's going to really move on and take another step in development and become a top 10 elite guy at this point. That's always been my point with this guy. And Sunday, when Monday rather.
Tired of this conversation.
But Monday was a perfect example of when the tough got going, so to speak, as the old saying goes. He didn't really come through, whereas a better quarterback probably would have.
Right. This might sound cheesy, but when you saw him on the sidelines all game long, he didn't seem to have that intense focus that he has in his good games.
He looked flustered.
He was sitting on the bench alone, and granted, they don't have stuff to look at on their little stupid Microsoft tablets, which I'm going to keep on mentioning. Why are we using Microsoft tablets? Use iPads, you morons.
For the record, it was a power problem and not a Microsoft problem. And to me, I think you're a moron if you use Apple products, but that's just me.
Well, I'm sure that Microsoft put up more money to do
that's you.
Sideline thing.
I just don't want to see anybody slam Microsoft. I like Microsoft.
Well, you can like Microsoft and its lack of power all you like.
But point is, it was a power production. It was a power supply problem, apparently, not a tablet problem.
Then you take those things back into the locker room. You plug them in with a USB cable, and you're good.
No, it was a power to the printer, is what it was.
Where did they buy their printer? Off of Craigslist from some dude in an alley?
No. You guys are missing the point.
$1 billion organization.
It was a power supply to the printer problem, from what I read.
Extension cord.
That's Bush League.
That is so Bush League. Thank you for saying
this is something any AV person worth their salt fixes in 10 minutes.
I mean,
you're not running a person who's not worth his salt.
Well, but that's a complicated setup, though, right? I mean, things can go wrong every once in a while.
It's a printer. It's a printer,
It's also
Steve.
one aspect of a whole pretty complicated setup, though. There too.
I mean, yeah, yeah, I hear
Who,
you.
you know what? Who cares? Let's move on. Doesn't
Okay,
matter.
fine.
I got something to highlight.
Go ahead.
Okay.
The third sack that came from Sean Lee on that blitz, that is a play you guys need to go back and watch. I tweeted it out too. It was the play was picked up by the offensive line and Matt Jones, but Sean Lee, I hate saying this, man, I really do, but he is a hell of a player. He is so good. He's so
I
smart.
think most people would agree that he's the best player on their defense.
He absolutely is, and
Yeah.
and this play is the perfect example of why. He comes on a blitz. Spencer Long picks up. I think it's Greg Hardy. He picks up Greg Hardy, and then as Sean Lee is blitzing the A gap, Matt Jones is right there waiting to block him. Sean Lee sees that. And instead of rushing into Matt Jones and trying to get by him, working a pass rush move or something,
Right.
he goes and chips Spencer Long.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
He
I saw
goes and
I
chips.
saw it. Yeah.
He chips Spencer Long, making Greg Hardy come off of Spencer Long into Matt Jones.
Masterful.
Spencer Long is thrown to the 5 yards to the left, unable to get to anything, and Sean Lee goes untouched pretty much right to
It was
Kirk
kind of
for
like
the sack.
the
It
interior
was
line
brilliant,
version
really.
of a head fake.
Yeah, he completely faked out Matt Jones.
Yeah,
It's
he
not.
did.
I wouldn't. You can't really blame Matt Jones for that, though. I mean,
It was a great play. I noticed that too, where he ran into Long, and I was like, "That's odd." But then, as soon as he did it, and you saw what happened,
just
Cowboys
freaking
defense came to
brilliant.
play yesterday. Here's a now I want to give us first of all a round of applause for not talking about this yet, because everybody's been talking about this all day on the radio. It's all that everybody has opinions about. We haven't mentioned it yet, but let's talk about it. It's the elephant in the room, and the question is, how much do you blame number 11, Mr. Jackson, for the loss? Are you of the mind that really cost us the game, or are you of the mind that he made up for it, for one thing, and for the second thing, it was out of reach anyway? Which camp do you fall under?
Can I start?
Of course.
All right. I think it was bad to backtrack and almost go into the end zone trying to make a play. I don't care how fast you are. You're not going to turn that corner and beat that team
No.
to get a big gain. But I understand why he did it. He was open so many times last night that Kirk didn't see him. So he was trying to, make a play because he didn't have the chance to make a play during the game before that.
Yeah.
I think he knows he shouldn't have done that, but it sucks. It's just one of those things. It's hindsight,
Right.
Should have just taken the fair catch, accepted the ball on the 30-yard line in some pretty decent field position. But I don't know. It sucks because it happened, really.
I've been arguing with people all day about it. I don't blame him for trying to reverse his field on the punt return. I mean, obviously, you have to blame him on the fumble. He's got to hang on to it. It was a big scrum, and but he fumbled the ball. You have to blame him for that. But he doesn't return a lot of punts. Everybody knows, the coaching staff, the fans, the opposing team. Everybody knows he's the playmaker. And when he goes in there, he's expected to make a play. I'm not sure he really was haunted by his, other plays where he was open or not. But I think he went in there with a mindset of, I need to make a play. And so if there's anybody on the field that can turn the corner like that, it's probably him. He's the fastest guy on the field on both sides of the team. So I think
Definitely.
he probably is one of these guys that has enough faith and trust in himself, whether misguided or not, that he thought it's worth the risk because at a minimum, I can probably at least get back to where I started. So I'm going to try to turn the corner, and it didn't work, But I don't really blame him for it.
He tried so hard to repeat that punt return he had against the Giants a couple years back with the Eagles. You remember that punt return?
Oh, yeah.
The walk-off? Yeah. I think he wanted so badly to repeat that kind of, walk-off fashion.
What a glorious moment.
Yeah, and even then, I'm still surprised that the Cowboys punted to him at that point. I think they were a little dumb to do that. I mean, it worked out in their favor, but if I was the coach, I would have said, do not punt it to him. Do not punt it to him. Just punt it out of bounds.
He wants the glory. Somebody on the radio had a great quote. It was, he wears number 11 because the first number 1 is for him, and the second number 1 is also for him.
That's ridiculous.
And it's so true.
I guess I have a more positive view of him than you guys do. I mean, Alex, you haven't given your opinion yet, but I mean, the guy is in fact, frankly, our best and maybe our only real playmaker on offense. Now that Robert Griffin's out of the game, in terms of elite athleticism and whatnot. And we have to turn to him to make stuff happen, and he was open all day long, and I don't blame him. I blame him for acting like a diva, maybe about it, but, did he have a right to be upset? Yes, he did have a right to be upset,
Right.
Well, I don't think he acted like a diva after the fact, but I will say
well, he
this,
stomped and he
that
kind of
was
kicked his
the
heels and stomped
dumbest
a little bit.
single punt return I've ever seen.
I agree.
It's just so, I just
Changing
totally
direction on the
disagree.
field, Steve, it doesn't work. If you had 100 guys do
I
it,
disagree.
they would all lose yardage.
I mean, he went back to the
It's
3.
worked like one time for Kansas City in the 90s, and everyone ever since has said, let's try changing direction, and it doesn't
For
work.
anybody but Deshaun Jackson, I would agree with you. But that guy has got more speed than
Well,
everybody.
guess what? He at best would have gotten sacked at the 5-yard line. Tackled.
If he was any
lost
slower,
20 yards.
He
Best
could have
case.
if he was any slower, he could have given up a safety. He was that close to the
close.
end zone.
It
Yeah.
was close.
I just think the
got
guy
to
was
the
trying to make a
2-yard
play. I
line,
don't
and
blame
he made it
him.
back up to the 5.
He's not going to do that in a normal situation in the middle of the game.
He
somewhere.
did it in a normal situation. That
Well,
was a
no,
normal
we-
situation.
that was-
the game's
no,
tied.
that was toward the end-
All he had to do
that was toward the
run
end of
out
the
bounds.
game.
He was right at the edge of the field, and
That
we
was
would
when
have
we
the ball
could
at the
least
25
afford it,
with
really.
2 minutes to try and get
We
a field
needed
goal.
we needed good field position.
Yeah, we did.
And I don't blame him for trying it. I'm sorry, I don't blame him.
I don't blame him for
I
trying
blame
either,
him for
and
the fumble.
My point in bringing it up isn't even to say whether or not he's to blame. I'm more responding to, I'm just blown away by Chad Dukes and Chris Russell, who get on the radio and say he cost us the game single-handedly by doing that. First of all,
That's just stupid.
I agree. And first of all, he comes back, he scores the touchdown in the chunk yardage play. Nice, our only touchdown in the final minute of the game. He scores right away after that. But furthermore, how can you really put blame on one dude when your first, 5 possessions are 3 and outs? When you can't score a touchdown
You can't
until the
ever
end?
say blame
3
goes
points
on one person
off
for
of
losing
3
a game
turnovers.
unless a quarterback.
That's how we lost this game.
Exactly. I mean, it's just ridiculous to really blame Deshaun Jackson for the law. It blew my mind that these guys were talking about that.
Look, you can't ever say all the blame goes on one person.
No, not at
But
all. And it's not even fair to say
let's say you're going to put out percentages. He gets at least 25% of the blame.
That's the most I'd give him.
That's
I mean,
most I'd
how
give
can you even
anybody.
give him that much in a way?
I don't know if I couldn't assign a percentage to it. Certainly that play didn't work out. I think it's just
that play
utterly
cost
ridiculous.
us- we went from probably just kicking a field goal or going to overtime, and
Yeah, we had
Probably
a
kicking
minute.
a field goal.
We had a minute and 2 seconds left
Minute
with
and
2
40
timeouts to go enough distance to kick a field goal.
right,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah, and by the way, about field goals, Dustin Hopkins missed a field goal early in the game. That would have been nice to have those
he
points,
shouldn't get off
too.
scot-free for that either. That was
Exactly.
well within his
Well,
range.
I want to go back to Djax because I just can't believe you guys are faulting him this much for this. They
I'm not
put him in
saying
there
he lost us the
specifically.
game, but-
No, they put him in there specifically to make a play. They
Yeah,
have
they did
told
it
him
3 times,
obviously
and he
you need to go
failed
make
all
a
3
play
times.
in critical situations. And reversing the field was one way he could do it. And yeah, it didn't work out, and it's too bad it didn't work out. But if it was anybody
reversing the field
else,
never works. Were you on when we had Brian Mitchell on? He said never go
No.
east-west, just go north-south. It's basic
one cut
punt
and go.
return duties.
I hear you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
I just can't believe people are this mad at him over it. I think first of all, I'll just say that
Agreed.
it's really dumb for anybody to blame a loss of a football game on one player, no matter what.
Absolutely
Even
not.
was it Scott Norwood in the Super Bowl in 1991? No, the 92 Super Bowl that that the Giants. You guys probably don't even remember this.
That was
where the Giants
1990. It
missed.
was the year before us.
Okay,
You're talking about the missed field goal?
yeah. And that was
Yeah.
it was the Buffalo kicker that missed a field goal, right?
Yeah.
I don't even blame
They
the
didn't
game
win
on
any Super Bowls, so yes, they missed the field goal.
Yeah. But there's a lot of things that lead up to the fact that that Super Bowl was tied at the end of the game. You
Sure.
can't blame an entire game on one player. And I think the Chris Russells of the world have just lost their minds. Maybe if the offense had done anything for 3 quarters, they wouldn't have been in that situation.
I totally agree with that. I'm not putting this game on to Sean. I'm calling him out for just a dumb play. You know, it was a dumb play, and
it might have been the dumbest play of the season.
Yeah.
The guy is trying to be a playmaker. And, don't
the
put him
guy's
in
an
if you don't
idiot
want
for
him to.
what he did.
If you don't want him to be a playmaker, don't put him in on a punt return every once in a while.
No, I
Just call it a
actually
normal
don't
punt
think he should be on the punt
and-
return. He doesn't practice enough to do it.
Well, we don't know what he practices.
Well,
maybe
if he
does
was
practice. I
practicing
have
punt
no
return
idea.
full time, he should be our full-time punt returner because he's the
You don't
best
want to
person
risk
for
a
it.
guy. Well, you don't want to risk a guy like that on punt returns. That's why he doesn't do it full time.
Well, Antonio Brown still returns punts.
Yeah.
Jay Gruden is the most conservative guy ever when it comes to football. In everything he does, he's not going to risk his most elite playmaker as a punt return. He flat out said that earlier. So you only put him in there when you want something to happen, and then to criticize him for trying to make something happen. We all wish it would have turned out better, but if you don't want him to try it, don't put him in there.
Well, I think the moral of the story is try it, but don't lose 10 to 15 yards on the return. Try it, but if you can't get anything, then just go down or fair catch it. They don't want, don't lose it. Losing that much yardage shouldn't just be, something that happens when you put a playmaker in there. It should be, at the very least, don't lose 10 yards on the return.
Barry
If
Sanders
Deshaun Jackson
lost.
was any other player, he'd be cut today.
I think you're dramatically overreacting.
If Rashad Ross lost 20
did you
yards
guys
and fumbled
ever?
the ball and lost
Did you
the game,
guys
he'd
watch?
be cut.
Did you
probably
guys
would.
ever watch Barry Sanders play football? Were you guys too young for that?
I remember I've watched highlights and I remember a little
Okay.
bit.
He's
Yes,
a
I know
very
he was a
huge
shifty
record
guy. He
holder.
would go backwards and it was one step back to go 2 steps forwards. I understand that mentality.
He would lose tons and tons of yards in some of those plays because he would do
once
exactly
in a
what.
lifetime dude, though.
Yeah.
Look, I mean,
I-
we're going
just-
to. I don't think any of
yeah.
us blame him too much. I think it was a bad play. We all agree on that. I think ultimately,
I
we
don't
also
agree on
that.
that. I
It's not
agreed
his
with
fault.
the effort. I
Yeah,
agreed on
okay.
the effort. I just didn't like the result.
I disagree with the effort. I think anybody every time I've heard Brian Mitchell or anybody talk special teams, they say you don't go east-west.
Well, I think he's learned that lesson, so I doubt we'll see it again. But anyways, maybe we should switch to something else. Let's talk, if there's even anything warranted to talk about on this topic, maybe we should talk about our running game or lack thereof. I know there's some, what can you really say about the running game yesterday, fellas?
Well, let me start. The obvious question here is why Matt Jones got all the carries and Alfred Morris only got 6 carries and was out of the game in the first quarter. The larger picture here is
Right, I
is
just
the
feel
team
so
getting away
repetitive.
from Alfred Morris. Well, here's the thing. First of all, neither one of them have been good.
Nope.
If you look at the stats for the year, Alfred Morris has rushed for more yards. He's up in the upper 400s, like maybe 450, I think, in that neighborhood. He's averaging about 3.5 yards per carry. Jones is averaging 3.4 yards per carry, has about 400 yards. Over the past 4 games, Morris has gotten a few more carries than Jones overall and has noticeably better yards per carry. So I'm not sure that it's the team, trying to force Alfred Morris to the bench. I really think they've just totally screwed up the rotation more than anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to believe, I've said this before on the podcast here, I'm not one to believe that a running back by committee is going to work if you have one running back who can carry the franchise burden already. And I think
And
I
has
don't know
for the
what
last 3 years.
Right. I don't know if the problem is, we've talked about the offensive line already. I don't want to go backwards, but I tend to think that the problem is maybe 75% offensive line and 25% running back when it comes to Alfred Morris's struggles, because we've seen him succeed. And so I really
he did pretty
question
well last week. Not great.
Yeah, my question really and truly for I guess to throw it open to the group here is I wonder if the problem isn't with the way the coaches are using these guys more so than the running backs themselves.
Yeah. I feel like this is a question we've been asking ourselves since week 3 when the running game first fell off.
Well,
What
it's-
is it?
It's
is it
also
the
when
line?
the offensive line started getting, banged up.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah.
But it's like the losses along the line, Sean Levat, whoever. It's hard to explain such a precipitous fall off.
Well, one thing, you got your tight end, Jordan Reed, that gets called for a hold almost every other play.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
That doesn't help. Then you have, other than the offensive line, since we already kind of touched on them, I don't know. I think the running backs seem hesitant. I think Alfred looks to cut back when there's nothing to cut back into. I don't think he, sticks to the point of attack enough. I don't know. To me, it just seems like it's too slow. At least Matt Jones hits the hole hard and is able to churn guys for maybe 4 yards, if anything.
He's not getting better results, though.
He's not. But
I'm all about results, man. I mean, honestly, I'm about production. And statistically, one of them is neither one of them are good right now, but one is better than the other.
Yeah,
not by much either way. But Gruden talked on it today, and I said this last week. This is exactly what I thought. Gruden said it's hard for me to call running plays when we average 2 yards per carry, or per run. The players have to give the coach confidence to want to run the ball. You can't run the ball just to run it. We run the ball pretty much every play on first down. I don't think we pass very much on first down.
No, I think somebody posted like 80% of the plays this game we ran on first down.
And that's a scheme and a play calling problem.
That's a tendency.
Yeah.
I mean, guys key on that, especially defensive coordinators.
Sure.
Though we did that, I love that the first play of the game was a pass. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was a play. I would have loved it to have been a executed play action pass, but
yes,
right,
exactly.
Big distinction. Big distinction to be made there.
It's the blocking up front. It's the running backs not running well and not holding on to the ball, especially Matt Jones. And then the tight ends can't block either. Plus,
Well, I think we need to give up the notion that Jordan Reed is a tight end in the traditional sense.
I feel like I've been saying that for weeks.
Not.
He's
not a wide receiver because, but you can't start him at wide receiver because the mismatch kind of goes away there.
Sure.
You kind of have to use him as a pass-catching tight end, but he's not ever going to be a blocking tight end. He's just not that, and he's not going to be that.
Well, that's the problem too, though. Especially with guys like Niles Paul being out, he was the starter. He is a guy that could do both. He could block and go run and catch a pass. That was a tendency breaker. Because Jordan Reed is the guy without Niles Paul, you have a guy that's forced to block because if he's out there lined up at tight end and you send him on a pass every time because he can't block, guys know that.
Right.
They have to make him block because if not, it's a tendency thing that defensive coordinators will be keen. They'll be waiting for it, Oh, Jordan Reed's not going to block. He's just going to go out for a pass. That kind of thing.
It's the Brandon Banks effect.
Yeah. Kind of. Here's my thing that I've been picking up on more and more lately. And this is a scheme question, I guess. We rely a lot on going out a shotgun these days.
Yeah.
And, I know that's kind of in vogue in the NFL. Every team seems to run shotgun at least 50% of the time. But we don't have running backs who are fast enough to run out of the shotgun. They don't. I feel like they don't build up the same kind of momentum you do out of an ace formation or a single back, a I formation, whatever you want to call it. It just seems to me that we aren't as effective running out of shotgun, and we try to do it a lot.
I really don't see the difference. Really, I mean, they're coming from the same. I mean, when guys line up in ace and I formation, they're still pretty far back from the line of scrimmage. If anything, they're closer to line of scrimmage in shotgun, I think. Because you see a lot of running backs, especially in single back, they're like almost 7 yards away from the quarterback. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's a problem because we don't get the blocking up front for one thing, and then I don't know. I don't want to say that it's teams aren't afraid of Kirk's arm because Kirk can beat guys with his arm. At least he's shown that some this year compared to other years.
So, at times, it's not like he's Tom Brady back there. Let's be honest.
He hasn't attacked deep. That's the thing. He hasn't attacked deep.
Right.
It's not. Yeah. Well, first of all, this problem that you guys are talking about is exactly the problem that DeMarco Murray's having up in Philadelphia. By the way, but be that as it may, it's not that. Kirk's doing badly back there, but I don't think teams have to specifically game plan for an elite level strength of his in any way.
Right.
That's the thing. And so he's kind of a vanilla kind of guy, and you throw him into – he runs Jay Gruden's scheme about as well as you can. but the scheme itself does not lend itself to a varied, dynamic offense. That's not what it is.
Well, I mean,
and we don't really have the playmakers for that other
Right.
than Deshaun Jackson.
No, but the thing is, he can throw it deep. I mean, you saw him overthrow Deshaun Jackson in that, I think it was like the second or third series.
Not
I
a
mean,
strength problem.
he's got the arm strength and he can throw it deep. We just don't do it enough,
It's not really his strength. It's not really the
That's like the
strength of
sermon
his
of
game,
me,
though.
man.
I mean, that's what helped us against the Giants. We took the top off the defense. That bomb to Deshaun Jackson changed the running game for us.
Right. And I think
right.
hitting that early probably needs to be in the script for them.
That is my point exactly from earlier in the show. A couple times that they did make those big, deep pass attempts, the guy was open. Kirk kind of mishandled it, but it wasn't uncatchable. It wasn't
Right.
impossible.
Anyways. I have one last point on the running game, and that is Steve's going to hate the sound of this, but we stuck with it way too damn long. The way they were attacking our run game, we should have almost given up on it by the end of the third quarter.
Well, they should have thrown Alfred Morris in there and see if he could change the pace up a little bit.
Maybe.
That's what
I
they
mean,
should
he
have
wasn't
done.
very effective when he did get touches in the first quarter, but
He only got six
guys are worn
carries.
down.
I mean,
Sure.
Yeah.
Change it up. I get it.
Right.
Well, missed opportunities all around offensively. Let's talk about defensively. It was a pretty good game up until, again, the end. For some reason, flurries of scoring go on at the end of these games.
Well, I have two things to say to that. So,
Go right ahead and do that.
Yeah, number one, it was a pretty good game against a pretty bad offense.
Sure.
The Dallas Cowboy offense is not great. But I forget who I was.
Really? Matt Casley's
maybe-
a world beater, man.
I was
talking about?
Tony.
They do
I
have
think
Dez. They do have Jason Witten. They have playmakers.
Who had his 1,000th whatever it was.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, well, Jason Witten is not the same player he once was, by the way, in terms of his playmaking ability. But the credit for this goes to Tony Dungy. I heard Tony Dungy talking about it on ESPN this morning, and on Mike and Mike, and they asked him. One of them asked him precisely that question: how on earth do these two offenses just look atrocious for 58 minutes, and all of a sudden they look like world beaters? And he said, well, the coaching staff, saves up these plays at work. And they save their tricks for the end. And in this case, that's exactly what happened. All of a sudden, the Dallas Cowboys started, you put Dez on one side and Witten on the other, and whichever side the coverage is shaded to, you go the other way.
Right.
Which is not what they were doing apparently, earlier. So things opened up for them because they specifically game plan for the end, if you will. That was what Dungy's point was. I didn't say it as artfully as he did, but that was his point.
That was our trick play. Over the top to Deshaun Jackson. That was the play we saved till the end of the game.
He was talking about Dallas, not us.
Okay,
You're talking about their final two passes to get into field goal range, basically.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Those were two passes. I guess you got to say that their touchdown resulted in totally being opportunistic of our screw up and punching it in with McFadden. But yeah, I guess they had two nice passes there.
Well,
so credit to them. Kudos.
The
for
thing
those two
that
nice passes.
just drives me nuts is and again, this is as a fan, I feel like we all see this, that our corners are better playing press.
Yep.
And then,
Yes.
we're in a situation where you can't let them get 15 yards. And what do? We're playing 10 yards off of their best
give them
players.
20.
Well, that's a problem, though. I mean, yes, in normal situations you press them and be physical, but when they're trying to gain yards, you want to keep them in front of you so you can get to them quickly as soon as the ball's dumped off and wrap them up. If you press, you take a risk on losing that press and them beating you deep and getting right past you. So I understand. I don't want to say get 20 yards back behind and give them a crap ton of cushion, but you, at the same time you have to back up a little bit and keep them in front of you.
Well, I think that number one, Joe Barry needs to blitz more, and he needs to trust the corners to be able to play press man when you blitz a little bit.
The problem,
and I think we need to vary up our
blitz with
stars.
who. We are so depleted when it comes to our front seven You know.
Well, but you can call blitzes though.
Yeah.
There's a difference between just getting pressure straight out of a front four or the front three and calling a blitz, and he does not call blitzes very much. So I think he needs to call more blitzes and bring that strong safety back, run a little bit more cover two maybe, or some other schemes, to make up for it. But you can't just have a whole game of no blitzing, cover three. Drop the corners back. Particularly when was it Sean that said our corners are better?
It was
at
me.
Press. Was it you?
Yeah,
That was me.
Our corners are better.
I don't often take credit for the smart things I say, but I'm taking credit for that one.
You couldn't have given me that, Alex.
I think our scheme needs tweaking. Put it that way.
I thought the defense did fine last night. I mean, I don't think they deserved that loss. I mean, there were plays left out in the field that Castle didn't take advantage of, but yet the defense still did their job.
They only gave up 19 points.
Exactly.
Right.
And even then, it's not all their fault.
No,
The offense
7 of
put
that
them.
is on Deshaun Jackson's fumble.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. It goes back to the offense for me. Offense did not do their part to help out the defense.
No.
Right.
Defense did not deserve this loss. They played their
the
guts
offense
out,
failed.
I thought.
Special teams really kind of failed. We didn't talk about it, but that final kickoff return. First off, why aren't you just trying to kick it out of the back of the end zone?
Thank you. To a guy who's been pretty good all game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
I
big
agree.
screw
Maybe
up.
it just made a bad kick.
Maybe. I'd hope so. I hope they weren't like, kick it so he can catch it and run the clock down 2 seconds or something like that. But
Who does need a shout out though? I mean, he had his great game last week, but he's still. I mean, it speaks wonders to the confidence the coaching staff has in him to line him up across from Des Bryant, Quentin Dunbar.
Yep.
I mean, unbelievable. I mean,
that boy's got a future here.
If he keeps improving, I mean, the fact that he was covering Des Bryant one-on-one is unbelievable. And this is a guy, like John Gruden couldn't stop talking about him last night. This is a guy, undrafted, turned from a wide receiver into a corner, and in 6 months is covering one of the most talented wide receivers in the entire NFL.
Yep.
I mean,
he's apparently
a bright
a
future
film. He's apparently a film study guy, which is why they have confidence in him.
Well,
I've read.
You can never underestimate guys who have that film study bug. You really can't.
Yeah, what he said about the film study was last week he knew what the receiver was going to do on that pick that he got in the end zone against Eli. He said he was either going to run a fade or a slant, and as soon as he saw the slant, he bit right on it and picked it off.
And he had a similar, it looked like, play this game because he nearly had that interception and went right through his hands. It was it was a bad throw by Castle, but it was another short slant there that it looked like he just read all the way through.
Maybe if his finger hadn't nearly been amputated last week, he would have caught it.
That may be, but you know what?
And the holding call or interference call they called on against Dez was, I mean, yeah, that was interference. At first, I thought it was like way overthrown and uncatchable, but there was another angle that showed
it was close. It was close.
But that was, I think, was just an inexperienced play. He was trying to jam him and be physical and just got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a good game. Now, who was it
Baker.
that forced the Baker definitely had a good game. Now, I was going to ask, who was it that forced that fumble? Who to
I think it was
receiver?
Terrence Knighton.
Mason Foster forced
No, it was
one
Mason
of them.
Foster was what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Just after they completed that pass, that was a great way to not give up on the play, force that fumble at the end, and recover it. Awesome play.
He had a good game too. He was flying all over the place, making some pretty solid hits and tackles. He was a surprise, I thought.
That's right.
Hey, Robbie-
like you said, Baker
Robbie,
too.
Not to backtrack too much, I just had a thought, but you told us a little story about your dad getting rid of his Chris Cooley jersey. If you take that jersey, you could change the name on it pretty easily to Dunbar.
Yeah, you could.
Sorry, I didn't want to get us sidetracked, but it just popped in my mind that 47, so it works.
Yeah.
Let's wait on Dunbar before we start modifying jerseys to
Jinx,
his name.
jerseys in my family is a jinx for most cases.
Oh, okay.
jerseys are always such a gamble. Anyways, other guys that showed up big time on defense. Baker had a great game. Kerrigan had a great game too. I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Will
Compton had another good game.
Will Compton's he's solid.
Yeah, I would love to see Will Compton and Keenan Robinson out there together. I feel like that could be such a good tandem for us.
I still think we need to draft an inside linebacker.
Get my boy from Temple, Matakevich.
Him, I like Miles Jack from UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
The best one though is the dude from Notre Dame. We probably won't have a shot at him, but Jalen Smith, that dude is an absolute freak.
Yeah, Notre Dame's got a couple good guys coming in the draft this year.
Yeah,
getting those draft boards ready early, guys.
I'm always ready.
All right, well, let's talk briefly if there's much to mention. I know we already touched on it a little bit. I wanted to say funniest play of the game to me goes Tressway coming out of nowhere like a meteor and making a tackle. I think it was again on Lucky Whitehead. He was like the last man, last line of defense, came and made that tackle. Great job, special teams. Other than that, horrible day on special teams in general. Bad stuff. Missed field goals and not great coverage.
Yeah. That about sums it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Not much else to be said on that.
Well, and a couple bad
Awful
returns,
all around.
but we
covered that already.
We beat that dead horse.
Yeah.
Well, there was a bad
Turned
kickoff
it into
return
glue.
early on too that we didn't really talk about, but we don't really need to get into that.
It all blends together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can pull it together because unfortunately we have some away games coming up, and obviously, as we know, we do not play well on the road. So we're going to Chicago first. Then I believe we have Buffalo, right?
Buffalo at home.
And at their home, right? In New
No,
York?
no,
No, at
Buffalo's
our
here.
home.
No, yeah, we
thank
played
God.
them at home.
Okay, so at least something to be slightly happy about.
I
So
think that's our last
stick with
home
us. Yeah, so stick with us, obviously, as we gear up for these away games. Big moments. We're all tied up except for the Cowboys in last place. There is a scenario, by the way, guys, where every team in the NFC East could finish with the same record, at which point Dallas would have the tiebreaker. That is a real scenario that could occur.
Don't even say it.
I know.
That's just awful to think
Just
about.
putting it out there. It's a crazy, bizarro year this year. Anyways, stick with us. The game previews coming up, and we will see you for the next episode. So long.